Thank you. Thank you, Can Corla, and for your explanation as to what has happened earlier. Minister, you'll be aware of the Shass Mountain landslide at Drumkeeran. About 55 hectares of land affected, about 170,000 tonnes of peat on the land, a very extensive landslide. Now, subsequent to the landslide, which is 10.5 months ago, Minister Noonan organised a meeting, and the then Minister for Agriculture, Minister Cowan, came to Drumkeeran, and he made a commitment that all farm payments on the land, BPS, ANC, etc., would be paid last year, and indeed they were. Subsequently, Minister Noonan has held a number of meetings of the stakeholder group. A lot of positive work has happened through the auspices of Leitrim County Council, Department of Transport, etc. However, Minister, the one department that has not engaged with the people on the ground, with the farmers, is the Department of Agriculture. Minister, you are well aware that right now farmers are putting in their applications for BPS. When they do that, they tick various boxes, and one of the commitments they make is that their land is in good agricultural and environmental condition. And how are they supposed to do that when there's several feet of peat on their land? You can't walk on it, let alone put out an animal. They haven't been given any advice. What's going to happen? Will these payments be paid under force majeure? If they claim these payments and receive them, will there be penalties because they ticked boxes that their land was in a certain condition and it wasn't?
Harkin, for 2 minutes.
Pardon?
So there's effectively 4 minutes available.
So
if Deputy Fitzmaurice is not here.
Yes, I understand. Okay, thank you. Because I was rushing through it, I didn't realise. But anyway, to continue what I was saying, Minister, I have spoken to many farmers, and they have to apply for their basic payments. So what do? We raised that question just a week and a half ago at the stakeholder meeting, and we were not given any kind of response. In other words, the farmers were supposed to get on with it. Get on with what? Can you give these farmers the same guarantee that the former Minister for Agriculture could give them, and say that these payments would be paid under force majeure, that there would be no penalties for claiming these payments? There's about 20 landowners that are affected, and we have not had the kind of proactive engagement from your department that we have had from other departments. And to some extent, I mean, farmers have been treated badly. I have spoken to many of them, and they just say to me, we've heard nothing from the department. So they want to hear from you as Minister this evening what they are supposed to do, what plans or proposals you have in place for compensation for the damage that has occurred on this land, and what is the long-term outlook for agriculture on this land. Because, as I said, this happened 10.5 months ago, and as you are aware, when landslides occurred in other parts of the country, they were dealt with much more quickly and efficiently than this one, and Leitrim farmers have every much a right to be dealt with in a proper way as farmers elsewhere.
Thank you very much, Deputy Harkin. Minister, good to have you here. And over to you now.
Yeah, thank you, Concord, and thank you, Deputy Harkin, for bringing this topic here before us tonight. As the House will be aware, as Deputy Harkin is aware, the landslide occurred in Shass Mountain on the 28th of June 2020, following heavy rain in the preceding days. A large area of upland bog, including some forestry, moved off the mountain, and large quantities of liquefied peat, vegetation and trees flowed down the mountain. This resulted in damage to road infrastructure and areas of land and forestry which were covered in peat. There has been ecological damage to the river, with quantities of suspended solids carried down in floodwater. The damage to land, both farmed and forested, included an overlay of peat and associated loss of grazing meadows and forestry, blocked drains, damaged fencing, including the removal of trees from afforested lands. I'm conscious, Concord, of the massive challenges faced by farmers in the immediate aftermath of the landslide, and following the event, I immediately reassured the farmers, my predecessor immediately reassured farmers that farm payments in 2020 would not be affected as a result of the landslide. A multi-agency group was established under the chairmanship of the Minister for Heritage at the Department of Housing and Local Government and Heritage, Malcolm Noonan. And this multi-agency group includes representatives of Leitrim County Council, local representatives, Oireachtas members, farm bodies, the MPWS, Inland Fisheries, Department of Transport, and my own department and academia as well. The department has assessed and mapped using satellite and GPS ground data the land parcels apparently affected, together with the land use. This exercise included an estimate of the area affected. This assessment and mapping exercise indicates that approximately 20 herd owners, for the purpose of BPS and GLASS participants, and 8 forestry owners were adversely impacted by the landslide. The estimated areas directly damaged by the landslide are approximately 24 hectares of farmland and 12 hectares of peatland or of forestry. With regard to BPS, GLASS, forestry and forestry participants in the 2020 scheme year, force majeure applied to all 2020 participants in accordance with the governing EU regulations, and no scheduled scheme payments were adversely affected as a direct result of the landslide. Leitrim County Council engaged with the services of consultant engineers to carry out an initial study on the background to this event and to make recommendations on more immediate remedial actions. This report in October 2020 considered and reported on the key factors influencing the triggering of the landslide and included recommendations on works that could be undertaken in the short term, including practical remediation measures and procurement options. It also included recommendations on further studies and investigations. Any ex gratia payment, Deputy, will require the sanction of the Minister for Public Expenditure and Reform, as the Department of Agriculture does not have a contingency fund to pay for land damage or land remediation in circumstances such as this. This interagency group agreed at its meeting in November 2020 that they would work together and follow up with my department, and the matter is under consideration at present. With regard to farm payments, as you are aware, my department administers the various schemes on behalf of the European Union, and both the department and scheme participants are bound by the governing rules in the relevant EU regulations. Force majeure is a recognised feature in the EU regulations, and this matter will be dealt with in line with the regulations. I know this is a matter that you have raised with me previously, Deputy Harkin, as is your colleague Deputy Kenny, and particularly Minister of State Fian, who is here with me this evening as well in the chamber for this topical, and my own party colleague Mark McSharry has been in close contact with me on this particular issue too. And I am glad to be able to say that officials of my department are contacting affected landowners or their agents to advise that force majeure will apply in respect of the 2021 scheme year and to assist them in making their applications. Affected applicants should ensure that their applications for participation in the various farm schemes in 2021 are submitted as required before any applicable closing dates, most notably and most urgently the basic scheme application, which must be submitted by the 17th of May, Deputy Harkin. So thanks for bringing it here before the Dáil this evening so that it can be discussed, and I'm glad to bring that clarity to the matter, and I know that the working group which you're participating in will continue to address the matter in the time ahead as well, but it's good to bring the clarity to the payments matter this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy Harkin.
Well, thank you, Minister, and it's always positive to get a good response from a Minister, and I am pleased that officials are contacting affected landowners to advise that force majeure will apply in respect of the 2021 scheme. That is a positive outcome, and I know a lot of people will be happy to hear that this evening. However, I must say I have spoken to a number of affected landowners in very recent times, and they had heard nothing, But your word is good enough for me, and that deals with the immediate issue of the application for the BPS and everything contingent on that, because it was a real worry for many landowners. As I said, not just the payments themselves, but the fear that there might be some kind of penalties attached if these forms were filled out incorrectly. However, Minister, there is the medium and longer term issues also. I mean, I've spoke to landowners whose drains are blocked, for example, huge drains that would normally perhaps be 6 feet deep, 8 or 9 feet wide, blocked. What are they supposed to do? Can they clear out those drains? Because that's having a negative impact on the rest of their land. So we need much more positive, proactive engagement from your department. People want to stay within the regulations, within the law, but they don't know what to do. So, Minister, I really would appreciate that. Finally, the issue of compensation. You say that's up to the Department of Finance, and that's fine. But you will know, Minister, that in your own area of Inishowen, when there was a landslide, that there was compensation paid to farmers for losses incurred. I'm just asking that your department, in conjunction with Finance, would put a similar scheme in place for the farmers in Drumcane.
Thank you very much, Deputy Harkin. Minister, to conclude.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Harkin, and thanks again for bringing it to the Dáil this evening. As I've indicated, the multi-agency group is an important forum and structure for actually trying to make progress in relation to this. I certainly will continue to have further engagements with my own officials as well in relation to the issues that have been raised tonight, and to assess how matters can be brought forward. It was a very significant event and a very, very significant damage and impact on the land. Certainly significantly different in scale, for example, to the Inishowen flooding, which was primarily repairs from flood damage, whereas this is a land movement issue, and it's a really, really challenging one to deal with. But certainly my own officials will continue to engage through the working group. It's a challenging issue to deal with, but I would encourage everyone to continue to work together, and my own officials we will ensure that there's strong cooperation to try and tease out those remaining issues. So thank you.
Minister.